this 18th century recipe for bath buns, one of Jane Austen's favorites?
私は肉で
Perhaps.
す。
So, thank you to
よろ
HelloFresh
しく
for
お願い
sponsoring
し
this
ま
video
す。
as we make breakfast for Jane Austen. This time on Tasting History.
ありがとうございます。どうもありが
Breakfast
とう。
in late 18th, depending on who was doing the eating, of course. In 1807, James Malcolm wrote that a middle-class Londoner's breakfast consisted of tea, coffee, cocoa, rolls, toast, and bread. Hence my decision to bake bread. But when it comes to the exact type of bread I wanted to make, well, for that, I looked to my favorite author from the period, Jane Austen. In 1801, she wrote a letter to her sister Cassandra saying that she hoped to join her when she stayed in Bath, but admits that perhaps her going would be an inconvenience and
Guys, kan batu tap-tap guys. Aku
but as to keep the two will be more than
Aku
one,
kesepian
I will
banget.
endeavor to make the difference less by disordering my stomach with bath bombs. And as to the trouble of accommodating us, where there are one or two, it is much the same. That is to say, I won't take up much space and I won't eat much because I'm going to fill up on bread, specifically bath buns. Now, bath buns, sometimes called bath cakes, are not to be confused with the light and fluffy Sally Lunn bun, which was one of the first things that I made here on the channel, and the first recipe that I made sure to include in the Tasting History cookbook. Now, they do have similarities, but the Sally Lunn bun is really just a brioche, a wonderfully delicious brioche bread, whereas the bath bun is usually sweetened quite a bit and has caraway for flavoring, or don't have caraway for flavoring.
ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。For the gift.
But
あり
since
が
I'm
とうござい
making
ま
an 18th
す。
century recipe, I'm going to be using caraway. This recipe comes from the experienced English house, and 1 spoonful of good barm. Warm some cream and make it into a light paste. Set it to the fire to rise. When you make them up, take 4 ounces of caraway comfits, work part of them in, and strew the rest on the top. Make them into a round cake the size of a French roll, bake them on sheet tins, and send them in hot for breakfast. So many later recipes start to reduce the amount of butter and instead add egg to make it more like a fluffy brioche. Though there is one recipe that actually doubles the amount of butter, and that's by John Farley in 1783. And what's interesting is that is the only real change that he makes to the recipe, because the rest of the recipe is the exact same as Elizabeth Raffles, except that when Elizabeth Raffles ends saying, send them in hot for breakfast, Farley adds, or at tea in the afternoon. But with the addition of that, it's practically an entirely different recipe, right? So you can have these at breakfast, you can have these at afternoon tea, but you can't have them at dinner. No bath buns for dinner. Instead, you should make a delicious meal from today's sponsor, HelloFresh.
Gue yang nanya di IG,
HelloFresh
yang mana ya?
fresh ingredients to your door.
Yang mana?
On prep time, they pre-portion all of the ingredients so you can get right to the cooking.
Give
They have
me
over
more
45
gifts.
different options
Kudasai.
to choose from every week, including vegetarian, pescatarian, and calorie smart. They even have a line of quick and easy meals for those nights when you're just a little hangry.
Udah punya pacar? Belum, aku
Last
single
night, I
for
made
life.
the chicken sausage spaghetti bolognese, and in only 30 minutes, I was seated on the couch enjoying my pasta. But it's not just dinner, because
Penuhin gift
HelloFresh
gallery
now
aku
offers
dong.
breakfasts as well, like the turkey sausage and cheese egg bites, so you can always start. Off your
Orang mana aja yang penting kasih aku banyak makan, kasih aku banyak duit.
For life. 1 free breakfast in every box as long as you keep the subscription active. That's code Tasting History free for free breakfast for life. And maybe I can even convince them to add these bath buns to their selection. But until I can get them to do that,
Arigato, arigato, arigato.
1/2 pound or 226
Penuhin gift gallery aku ya,
450
please.
grams of bread flour, 3.5 teaspoons or 10 grams of active dry yeast, 1 teaspoon of
Gift
salt.
gallery aku.
There is actually one more ingredient in the recipe, but you are
Penuhin.
unlikely to find it here in the 21st century. And that is
Penuhin.
caraway comfits.
Kudasai.
What these are essentially is a seed of caraway
Kerja di mana,
that has been
Bali?
coated in layers of sugar in a way that it's a hard,
confess
candy
your
coating similar to the outside of an M&M. No chocolate though. It's just the seed and then a lot of sugar. There are actually specialty
Cherries
shops
my
that still
life.
make this sort of thing, but they don't use caraway seeds anymore. So hopefully someday I can get my hands on a version
restoran di Bali enggak nomor rekening.
Using 1 tablespoon of caraway seeds and a third cup or 67 grams of sugar. So first activate your yeast.
Aku di hotel ini Hilton Nusa Dua.
And then whisk in the salt to the flour and then break the butter up into the flour and rub it in until it is well incorporated. Then add the yeast along with the sugar and the caraway seeds and mix everything until it's combined. And then pour the cream into a saucepan and heat it up until it's just warm, about 110 degrees Fahrenheit, no more than that. And then add that to the flour mixture and begin to
Hotel
knead
Nusa
both
Dua,
things
iya.
together to form a
Ini
dough.
aku
Once
di
the dough comes together,
Hilton
knead it
Nusa
for
Dua.
another 15 minutes, and if after 15 minutes it's still not pulling away from the sides of the bowl,
Boy,
then add in a tablespoon of
cherries,
flour.
my
If you're kneading this by hand, this will have been done on a floured surface, so you're going to be adding in more flour as
Oh, aku cek ini ya DM TikTok maksudnya.
Knead it until it pulls away from the sides of the bowl, and then cover it and let it rise for 2 to 3 hours or until it has doubled in size.
Tetap harus pulang dong. Aku nggak boleh tidur di hotelku anjir. Kalau lagi
Slower than many other breads.
nomor rekening. Buat apa nomor rekening?
Probably going to take closer to 3 hours. It took 3 hours in my kitchen. So
Penuhin
have patience.
gift gallery aku dong, guys.
And turn it out of the bowl and divide it into 12 equal pieces, forming each into a little bun.
Ya. Kenapa kamu menanyakan nomor rekening aku?
Between your hands and rolling it into a tight.
Kamu kasih aku
Then
duit.
set those on a couple of lined
Boleh.
baking sheets and cover them again and let them rise for another hour. Now once they're risen, you
Boy,
can either put them into the oven then, or you can
cherries,
make them
my
an
love.
optional egg wash just to give them a little bit of a shine,
Cherries,
and then
my
pop them in the
love.
oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit or
My
190 Celsius for 20
crown,
minutes or until they are golden brown on top and sound hollow when you tap on the bottom. So just a word about these buns.
Gift gallery aku masih ada.
They've been considered rather decadent, and so you could tell
Masih ada
a lot
11
about
lagi.
breakfast
Penuhin,
simply by the fact
guys.
that they are eating bath buns for breakfast.
Masih ada rose, finger heart, rosa, donut, topi, hearts, corgi, manigan, DJ glasses, galaxy, well diving.
Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth Bennet gets a note from her sister Jane saying that she is ill at Netherfield, the home of Mr. Bingley. Austen tells us that the letter arrived shortly after breakfast, and Elizabeth, worried about her sister's health, decides to
Pucat sekali. Enggak pucat anjir, aku nggak pakai makeup aja. Sebenarnya bagus-bagus aja.
And it's not 3 miles on a nice, clean paved road, but crossing
Panas banget
field after
HP-nya,
field,
kayak
jumping
mau
over hill, springing over
kebakar.
Such a journey, especially wearing the shoes and clothing of the time, would not be a very quick one. It would have taken at the very least an hour. And yet, when Elizabeth arrives at the house, she finds Mr. Bingley's other house guests just sitting down to breakfast. Now, on the surface, this entire affair just seems to be a story about Elizabeth worrying about her sister Jane, and it Jane Austen is telling us something about the societal station of Mr. Bingley's house guests. Mr. Bingley's house guests, and you know that they are having breakfast 2 hours or so later. Now, this is something that is completely lost on us now. We wouldn't even make that connection, or at least I didn't, and I've read this book many, many times. But when the book was published in 1813, the people reading would have made that connection. See, it was common knowledge that the well-to-do ladies and gentlemen of London ate breakfast much later than the middle classes, especially those who lived outside the city, middle-class families like the Bennets. Now, this sort of fact would seem rather mundane, and so most people would never
Aku bingung. Besok makan apa ya? Ntar malam aku udah tahu sih mau makan apa. Dan besok aku makan apa?
For example, the
Run
French
to
Duke,
me,
Francois
confess
de la
your
Rochefoucauld,
love.
wrote about his time spent in England in the 1780s. And speaking of the everyman, he wrote, "Throughout England it is the custom to breakfast together, the meal resembling a dinner or supper in France. The commonest breakfast is at 9 o'clock, and by that time the ladies are fully dressed with their hair properly done for the day. Breakfast consists of tea and bread and butter in various forms. In the houses of
Nasi
the
goreng
rich,
campur ayam. Nggak mau.
chocolate and so on. The morning newspapers are on the table, and those who want to do so read them during breakfast.
Guys, bantu tap-tap guys sama, jangan lupa.
So it's 9 a.m. and the family is around the table, eating together but also reading the newspaper. And I always find it interesting that people today will often chastise, especially the youth, for being on their phone at a meal, which is rude.
Jangan
But it's
lupa
obviously nothing new, seeing as Rochefoucauld is
tap layar,
talking
guys.
about how the conversation is so dull because everyone at breakfast is reading the newspaper. How rude. Nothing ever changes. We are not special. Now that was Rochefoucauld writing about the everyman, the common people, especially those outside of London. But when talking about the people in London, especially the type of people that the Duke would have been hanging about, well then, the conduct of an Englishman's day in London leaves little time for work. He gets up at 10 or 11 and has breakfast, always with tea. 10 or 11, so that's up to 2 hours later than most people are eating breakfast. And some pushed it even further into the day. James Malcolm wrote that for the class of ancient families possessing large incomes and the nobility, breakfast often makes its appearance at the tradesman's hour of dining. And he says that he's heard of breakfasts at private houses attended by 200 or 300 persons at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now these breakfasts were not simple little meals of bread and tea. They would include dishes of cold game like venison and elaborate salads and piles of sandwiches, along with confections and pastries and plates of fruit, and of course plenty of wine. What made it breakfast was not the
Sabar ya,
time
bentar lagi
of
aku
day
pulang.
breaking your fast. And really, big breakfasts and at dinner was the food that was being served and how it was being served. Usually you weren't at a big dinner table and everything was served out of no need to cut anything, everything was kind of finger foods. These were also the types of breakfasts that one would have on the day of their wedding. Afterward, everyone would come over for a big wedding.
Cute, thanks. Anyways, ini kayak agak tadi sempat nge-lag guys, soalnya internetnya merah. Run to me, confess your love.
Di balik dapur mungilnya, Tika berdiri di depan kompor, tangannya cekatan mengaduk adonan kacang hijau sambil sesekali menuang cat warna dan juga lilin cair ke dalam panci kecil.
Kalau terus beli bahan bagus, aku bisa rugi. Tapi kalau kelihatan cantik di kamera, pasti bakalan laku. Apalagi warnanya ngejreng. Lagian mereka beli bukan karena rasa, tapi karena bentuk.
5 menit kemudian. Itu tadi kamu masukin apa, Tik? Kok warnanya jadi genjreng gitu? Tadi putih, sekarang
Izin
jadi
pamit,
kayak warna
bye-bye.
jingga. Banyak aman kan?
Aman, gak usah banyak tanya. Yang penting besok pagi kamu bungkusin yang
Halo,
rapi,
DN.
oke? Aku kan udah bilang kalau ini semua udah aku tes. Tuh lihat, aku aja berani kok pegang langsung.
Iya sih, ya tetap aja. Soalnya baunya itu agak aneh, kayak bau bensin atau cat kuku gitu. Jangan sampai ada yang kenapa-kenapa ya, Tik.
Halah, gak usah mikir yang aneh-aneh. Orang-orang itu gampang kagum sama visual. Kita kasih yang cantik, pasti dibeli. Gak ada yang peduli isinya apa. Percaya deh.
Yaudah, kalau kamu itu yakin, aku bantu packing aja deh ya besok. Jangan lupa kirim data order dari Tok dan juga egoinya ya, biar aku bisa labelin langsung.
Iya, ini orderan makin bejibun. Kemarin aja ada seleb Igo yang review, baru 3 jam posting langsung masuk 60 orderan. Rezeki emang gak boleh ditolak ya.
Asal bukan rezeki dari bohong aja, Tik. Kadang yang kelihatan mulus di luar tuh ya dalamnya bisa bahaya. Tapi ya semoga gak kenapa-kenapa lah ya.
Kalian kalau mau beli fotoku ada di traktir guys, traktir link in bio.
Ini semua cuma cemilan lucu-lucuan, gak bakalan bikin mati kok.
Ya semoga gak gitu ya. Aku itu bantu karena kamu itu butuh, Tik. Tapi ingat aja, semua yang
Baby, there's another side that you don't know. Aku bingung. Bingung mau nonton apa karena
A ship limps back into
si
port
bajunya
after a
besar ya,
two-year-long
iya.
expedition. Their crew has sailed to the far-flung reaches of the globe, visiting the most isolated places on the planet. After such a long time at sea, the ship is being held together by little more than pitch and hope. It used to be held together by iron nails, but the sailors had other uses for them. This is the Dolphin arrived back in Britain in May of 1766. Though they didn't find a mythical continent, they did return with reports of the animal and plant life found on these islands, as well as the indigenous
Maaf guys,
populations.
ke pause
The
live-nya.
Dolphin had completed one of the fastest circumnavigations of the globe, taking less than 2 years to finish the journey. Even though they failed to find any new continent, there was still excitement generated by the Dolphin's voyage, and in August of 1766, the ship, now captained by Samuel Wallis, set out for another voyage. Crossing the Atlantic was uneventful, though the Dolphin was forced to spend 3 months trying to navigate around the tip of South America. Although they fought against heavy winds and rough seas, the
Ke-pause
crew
tadi,
did
maaf ya.
manage to map out terrain features of one of the most dangerous parts of the ocean. Finally, in April, they managed to clear the Strait of Magellan and sail into the Pacific Ocean. The ship survived the treacherous waters, but the crew was badly
Aku nggak
in need
ngambek,
of
emang
fresh
muka aku
provisions.
aslinya gini guys.
Captain Wallis turned the Dolphin northwest to a little explored section of the Pacific Ocean, hoping to reach land for provisions. In early June, they spotted islands in the Tuamotu archipelago. The crew was able to stock up on some food and fresh water before heading west. On June 18, 1767, more land was spotted, and on the 23rd, the HMS Dolphin dropped anchor in Tahiti, which Wallis named King George's Island. This was a massive relief, as much of the crew, including Wallis, was sick from their months at sea.
Halo,
Of
Sunny.
course, they weren't alone. Tahiti had been inhabited by Polynesians who settled the island centuries earlier. When they saw the large
Katanya
British
fell in
ships
love.
sailing in, they hopped in their canoes and paddled out to greet the newcomers. Captain Wallis
Guys,
saw that
tap-tap
their
layar
canoes
guys,
held
sama
not
absen
only the
love orange
Tahitians,
jangan lupa
but
ya.
also pigs, chickens, and fresh fruit, provisions that the crew desperately needed. When they approached the Dolphin, Wallis ordered the ship's gunner and 2 midshipmen to trade for them. In exchange, the British gave the Tahitians beads, knives, and iron nails, and fired cannons if they didn't get their way. On June 24th, according to Wallis's report, the ship was surrounded by hundreds of canoes, which he described as, quote, furnished rather for war than trade. He states that the Tahitians gave a shout and began to converge on the Dolphin, hurling stones as they paddled closer. The British opened fire, and the Tahitians scattered when a cannonball tore one of their canoes in half. Things calmed down after that, and while there was no doubt some tension, friendly relations were soon established. The Tahitians traveled to the Dolphin and traded with the British, and in short order, the ship's holds were refilled with fresh supplies. George
Hello.
Robertson, the ship's master, kept detailed records of these exchanges. Above all, the Tahitians valued iron, especially iron nails, because they couldn't make any yet. Soon, a basic exchange rate was created, with certain goods being worth a specific length of nail. For example, a 3-inch nail was claimed to be worth a 20-pound pig. Provisions weren't the only thing that nails were used for. One day, Robertson was ashore with a group of Liberty men, those who were allowed off the Dolphin. While there, he and the others were approached by 3 Tahitian women who kept making a specific gesture. The Liberty men assured Robertson that the women only wanted an iron nail and didn't elaborate. Confused, Robertson gave them each a nail as a gift before departing. A while later, back on the ship, Robertson told this to the gunner, who explained the Tahitians were engaged in the world's oldest profession, and the price was an iron nail. Over the following weeks, the sailors soon expended the ship's supply of extra nails and started to pull nails from the Dolphin itself, including the nails used to secure the sailors' hammocks and also from the cleats, which were used to secure the ship's ropes in place. According to popular legend, the sailors were so eager for female companionship that they started pulling apart the ship, so the structural integrity was jeopardized. It's a funny story, no doubt, but highly exaggerated. It was reported that the sailors were forced to sleep on the deck rather than in their hammocks, and securing the miles of ropes needed on a sailing ship became that much more difficult. But the Dolphin was still seaworthy.
Tap guys
These
sama
reports,
komen.
combined with tales from other
Biar
explorers
rame.
of the tropical paradise and the perceived promiscuity of the locals, caused the tale to be exaggerated. On top of this, most especially by Captain Wallace, who was bedridden on the Dolphin during their time in Tahiti, so his accounts were secondhand information told well after the fact, which adds to more confusion. Of course, the accounts don't take into consideration the Tahitian perspective. Rather than simply being an orally promiscuous culture, there is much more involved. The 3 women Robertson and the Liberty men encountered weren't random women, but more than likely followers of a god of war. They would travel around the Tahitian islands performing religious rituals to encourage fertility and prosperity, which did involve sexual acts. However, this was a very select portion of the population. The men had been unknowingly cutting a sacred grove of trees when the women confronted them. They were followers of the god of war, and the British had arrived during one of their seasonal festivals. The Tahitians may have believed that the sailors were somehow associated with their gods and included them in their rituals. With no common language, cultural confusion was inevitable. Structural integrity of the Dolphin aside, there was another issue that was a major cause for concern. Many of the ship's officers were afraid that these activities would lead to an outbreak of venereal disease among the Tahitians. The ship's doctor, however, assured them that the crew was healthy. Unfortunately, when James Cook visited the island in 1769, there was a major syphilis outbreak among the native
Bulat banget
population,
mukanya,
which
iya.
they blamed on a French expedition that
Itu
reached the
deh.
island a year after the Dolphin. Either way, Cook estimated 90% of the Tahitian population was devastated by Western disease. After about a month, the crew of the Dolphin had recovered and the ship's hold was filled with fresh provisions, and in late July, they raised anchor and departed. They continued westward, passing through the Gilbert and Ellis Islands, and then the Marianas before navigating the Cape of Good Hope. The Dolphin returned to Britain in May of 1768. By completing this voyage, the HMS Dolphin became the first ship to circumnavigate the planet twice. Although they didn't discover the Terra Australis Incognita, they did bring back valuable information about an exotic part of the world. The tale of the Dolphin's crew tearing apart their ship belies a much different reality, one of cultural misinterpretations, exploitation, and the ultimate destruction of a people's way of life.
Lah, Livi cantik. Ya dong. Masa jelek? Iya, lagi libur sekarang. I'm kinda hungry though.
14 years old, herding goats on a hillside of Georgia, 1582, when the raiders come. Black smoke rises from your village below as men with curved swords drag screaming girls from burning houses. Strong hand seize you. Rope burns your wrists. Just like that, your childhood dies in the ashes of everything you've ever known. The slave trader circles you like a jeweler inspecting stolen treasure, measuring your height, testing your skin for flaws, checking your walk for
Are you
signs of
broken?
obedience. 3 weeks later, you're standing
I'm not
pale and
broken. I'm
paused
just,
so thin,
I don't know. I'm just tired, guys.
silk
I think I'm
robes,
just tired.
coins change hands, and you become the Sultan's newest acquisition. The carriage rattles towards Topkapi Palace, its walls rising like a mountain of stone and secrets. At the gates, the Kesar Aga, the chief eunuch of the harem,
Enjoyin
inspects
makan.
you with the precision of a jeweler examining stones. His
Mending
eyes
kalian
roll
donate aku yang banyak biar aku bertenaga, guys. Karena aku sangat tidak bertenaga, kayak
is your first taste
aku benar-benar
Marble
gak ada
floors,
tenaga,
steam
guys.
thick enough to drown in, attendants who scrub your skin until it bleeds. Senior matrons conduct health inspections in private rooms, their hands clinical, their eyes calculated. Your body is an investment now. Your new name is Sinaz, graceful, charming. Your old name
Mau
dies
gak?
with
Apanya
your blood.
mau?
They dress you in simple cotton and teach you the rules. You're a carrier now, a slave
Mau,
trainee in the
kasih
palace,
dong.
a possession, a breathing
Kasih
ornament in the
dong,
Sultan's
buat aku
collection.
beli.
The dormitory houses 20 girls, all torn from different corners of the empire. They teach you Turkish with strict discipline, obedience through careful surveillance. But they teach you Islam with patience and kindness. The only time you don't feel watched like prey. 2 years pass. You're 16 now, carved into something graceful, silent, dangerous in your beauty. The palace has a hierarchy. Valid Sultan Nurbanu at the top, under her, the chief consort, Haseki Sultan Safiye, then the senior consorts. Beneath them, the favorites, and at the bottom, girls like you, trainees and attendants, waiting to be chosen. At dawn, even before the Fajr prayer, you slip into your role like a costume. Eyes down, steps measured, voice sugar-coated. You're no longer a breathing girl, but background music in someone else's performance. You've learned to move like smoke, to survive on scraps of approval. The Valid Sultan, Nurbanu, watches everything with calculating intelligence. Competition is a living thing here, fed by desperation. The girl who arrived with you spreads rumors that you still pray to your Christian God. You find chicken blood in your bed and accusations of blasphemy following you. Only quick thinking saves you. You publicly burn a hidden cross and recite Islamic prayers until your voice breaks. She disappears the next week. Windows don't leave rope burns on necks. Music lessons consume your afternoons. Your fingers bleed learning to oud. Dancing is worse. Movements designed to seduce. Every gesture a promise. You practice until your feet crack, until the rhythm pounds in your skull. Your chance comes through an eternal presence.
Aku mau tiduran.
Senior partner pins a jewel at your shoulder. His art, the chief eunuch, leads you through quiet courtyards of the Sultan's
Aku
private chambers.
tiduran.
No audience, no applause.
Ngomong apa lagi, Livi?
World stops. What is your name? Loud. Sinaz, my son. You shall attend me tonight. That night, eunuchs carry you to his chambers on a litter like a sacrifice. What happens isn't love, it's conquest. You submit because resistance means death. Smile because tears mean weakness. Pretend pleasure because his satisfaction is your survival. 3 months later, you're pregnant. The news spreads like wildfire. You're moved to better quarters, elevated to a senior consort. But the upgrade comes with a price. Every meal could be poison. Every friendly face could hide an assassin's heart. Your son is born during spring rains. His first cry travels through chambers thick with incense and intrigue. The moment they place him in your arms, you understand what love can cost. You would kill entire kingdoms for this child. Sultan Murad III visits to inspect his newest heir, holding the baby like a merchant examining goods. Strong lungs, he grunts. He'll need them. Your elevation brings new dangers disguised as privileges. Better food you'll barely touch.
Hello.
More servants who could be spies. Richer clothes that feel like funeral shrouds. Your salvation comes when the Sultan
Hold that.
begins showing genuine interest beyond your body. You find yourself summoned to his private study, where you learn to offer counsel disguised as casual observation. Your influence grows like a vine. Courtiers begin approaching you with requests they once took directly to the throne. The
How
power
you from?
is poison that tastes
You
sweet.
mean,
The girl
where
who
are you
once herded
from?
goats is disappearing, replaced
Indonesia.
by someone harder, colder. When a young attendant reminds you too much of your former self, you have her transferred to the old palace, effectively ending her chances. You call it mercy, but know it's murder of a different kind. Your son grows clever, already showing intelligence that could make him a contender for the throne. In the harem's twisted logic, this makes him both precious and doomed. Aseki Sultan Safiye, whose influence grows as Nurbanu ages, corners you in the gardens. Your bastard will never wear the crown, she hisses. I'll see him dead first. You don't flinch. Touch my son, and I'll feed your entrails to the palace cats. By age 8, your son is old enough to be seen as a real threat. You surround him with loyal food tasters. Train guards you trust with your life. You teach him to be suspicious of gifts, wary of strangers. You're teaching a child to survive in a den of silk-draped vipers. January 1595. Murad III is dead. By dawn, his son Mehmed III sits on the throne. Before the city wakes, silk cords finish their work. 19 princes, your son's uncles, are carried out wrapped in linen. All except your son, being too young to be a direct threat. Yet, you watch from your window as they carry out 19 bodies. You remember the nursery, the smell of milk, the sound of tiny breath. Now imagine 19 lives snuffed out before dawn. Your son, 13, shows dangerous promise. Intelligent, charming, attractive. When he accidentally witnesses a secret meeting between the Sultan and Venetian merchants, whispers begin that he's become too knowledgeable, too much of a risk. Your desperate plan unfolds over months. Using your network of spies, you arrange for your son to contract a serious illness, requiring treatment at Medres, a religious school outside the city. The fever is real enough, carefully induced. The symptoms convincing. There, he recovers slowly while you arrange his transformation. A merchant caravan needs educated
Aku nggak ngambah atau
Your son,
marah atau
now
apa,
using
nggak
his
manyun-manyun. Ini
grandfather's
muka
name,
asli aku kayak
claiming
gini,
to be an
guys.
orphan court official's child, joins them. His royal education serves him well. He can read maps, speak languages, handle horses. He's 15 when he disappears into the dust of trade routes, carrying your heart into exile. Your son's escape leaves you hollowed out. You've learned to wear masks. Back in 1583, when Nurbanu had died and Safiya rose as the new power behind the throne, you continued serving. Now, fate has one final twist. During a diplomatic crisis with Venice, your knowledge of the old Sultan's secret deals make you invaluable. You never receive a formal title, but power flows through different channels. Through Akira, a Jewish intermediary who trades letters and jewels, your whispers reach Venice and back. Favors cross the lattice faster than official decrees. You've achieved something no concubine before you ever dreamed of. Real influence that doesn't depend on beauty or the current Sultan's favor. Years pass. Reports trickle in of a brilliant young general in the eastern provinces. A man of unknown parentage rising through the ranks with impossible speed. You never confirm it's your son, never risk his safety by claiming it, but your heart knows. The fever comes suddenly, burning through your body like wildfire. At 52, your body finally rebels against decades of silk-wrapped survival. Palace physicians shake their heads. Even the most powerful woman in the empire can't cheat death forever. You lie surrounded by rosewater and candlelight. Servants whispering Quranic verses. Your breathing grows shallow as consciousness drifts like smoke. Then, footsteps echo in the corridor. Boots, not slippers. Your maid whispers urgently to the eunuch guarding your door. There's a man asking to see her. He says he's her son. Through fever-hazed eyes, you see him. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing the uniform of a Sanjak Bey, a provincial governor. The face is older, weathered by desert campaigns, but the eyes are
Guysnya.
your eyes. He kneels beside your bed.
Ya sih, aku ngantuk dan lapar semuanya deh, pokoknya ngantuk, lapar, sakit
He told me
pinggang,
to trust no one, but I trusted you, and I made it.
sakit
Your
dompet.
trembling hands find his face, tracing features that blend his father's strength with your determination. You live, you whisper, voice barely a breath. That's all I ever wanted. I carry your blood, he says, pressing something small into your palm, a carved wooden goat, worn smooth by years of handling. That makes me unbreakable. You close your eyes, finally unafraid. Your last thought isn't of the life stolen from you, but of the legacy you forged in fire and silk.
I am en route to a brothel. Not just any brothel, a brothel in Reno, Nevada that prides itself on being like the creme de la creme.
Prostitution
Aku
is
jam
considered one of the most controversial
berapa ya?
professions in the
Kayaknya aku mau
world
makan deh.
and is illegal
Aku
in
mau goreng
49 out of the 50
pempek.
US
Oh my
states.
god.
One thing I can't imagine doing is having sex if there was zero attraction. I would really struggle with that.
I've been given the rare opportunity to stay in a place that couldn't exist in the UK. One of Nevada's oldest legal brothels, the Mustang Ranch.
I think what's going to make this weekend quite different is they're not a family, right? So I'm not staying in a family home. I'm staying with the girls because they all live here. They all hang out together. They'll have meals together, I'm presuming. Yeah, desperate to see how that all plays out.
According to the owners, this is the only legal brothel in the US run by two former working women. I want to find out if places like this should exist as a solution to the dangers sex workers face. But first, I need to get through security.
Hiya! We're here to see Madam Jennifer and Tara.
Okay, so the other three are coming up.
Thank you. See ya! There'll be lots of men in Nevada who feel very jealous of what I'm about to walk into. Oh, here they are! Oh, they're all dressed up. Hi, ladies! I'm Stacey. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Yeah, welcome. Lovely. Yay. Likewise. And
Sama
I should call you
Jireng.
Madam or Jennifer and Tara? Like, what do the girls call you?
Madam Jennifer, Madam Tara.
Fine.
It's
Okay.
that easy.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we'll get your bag. Joe, do you copy?
Bisa gak guys, aku dapat 5.000 koin hari ini. Wah, aku pengen. Bisa gak ya kira-kira?
Hey, Jojo. Joe is our head of security.
Bisa sih kalau kalian penuhin gift gallery aku, mungkin sampai ya
Joe
guys.
and his team watch over the women 24/7.
Yes, this is Stacy.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. If you'll grab her bag.
Thanks, Joe. I never normally have this level of service, so thank you very, very much.
Rolling out the red carpet for you.
You smell delightful.
Aw, thank you.
Feels good to be here.
These are the ladies.
Ladies!
Hi.
Nola, nice to meet you. Likewise, I'm Stacey.
Yes. And this is Scarlett.
Hi.
And this is Darcy.
Darcy.
Yeah.
Stacey.
This is Jean Grey. Yeah.
Lovely to meet you too.
Referred to here as courtesans.
Kalau sayang kamu
Chef
terbatas
Whitney
maksudnya.
to charm potential clients.
So at the minute we've got 2 clients in the
Halo, Ella.
bar area.
Tonton dong nih, denger aja suaranya.
Yes, we are. 65 days a year. There's no
Aku nggak suka cireng.
Ever.
Can I have a nose around?
Let's go look around.
Girls, thank you so much. Nice to see you. I'll see you again, I'm sure. Thank you.
And this is our parlor.
Great.
Other merchandise.
I'm loving the merch. Best
go.
bang for your buck.
Yes. And no one rides for free.
No. So you two are courtesans?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you still work or are you just
No.
the madams now?
No, we're just madams. We've done, and this is Erica Lauren.
Stacey, how are you? Nice to meet. Love your trousers, Erica.
Thank you. I work out after.
You look fantastic. Do you mind me asking how old you are?
Well, I'm 68.
You're 68.
I'm 68.
And she's one of the top bookers every day, all day long.
Booked and busy, Erica. We love to see it. Oh my
Imut banget,
wow.
makasih.
And that could be anything. It could range from what? Having a conversation to hardcore anal?
Actually correct.
But yeah.
Most people tell somewhere in between.
Okay. Thank you ever so much for saying hello.
Thank you, Erica. Have a good workout.
The ranch books up to 1,000 clients a week, which requires an in-house team of 49 staff, including an on-site medical clinic, housekeeping, and catering.
This is the restaurant kitchen area. Jeff is our executive chef. This is Stacy. Yeah.
Nice to meet
Yeah.
you too. And then there's a swimming pool.
There is.
There's Erica, look.
Oh yeah, she's doing her yoga.
That is just brilliant.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm at an all-inclusive holiday resort.
Yeah, when we hire the ladies and they say, oh, how should we pack? I say a 2-week sexy vacation.
I obviously missed that memo. But don't worry. Look at this view.
We're going to take you to your
home
Beli
to
ayam jemput
around
nggak
10
boleh kalau
staff
kasih
in
TikTok
different
Universe.
women, each staying a minimum of 7 days. During their stay, courtesans are given a room to both sleep in and have sex with clients, otherwise known as a party.
So this is your beautiful room.
Perfect, actually.
So this is a working room.
If these walls could talk.
I can imagine, Zara. I can only imagine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Our pleasure. We'll be
Brilliant.
out in the parlor area.
I know exactly
Okay.
where that is.
Awesome.
And
Aku ngantuk anjir, kayak aku mau tidur bentar deh.
Thank you, ladies. First impressions. I am loving Madam Jennifer and Madam Tara. The sole purpose of this room is to service the client. I mean, it might be a bit noisy because I've got girls either side of me.
Oke,
That's the only thing.
I need to sleep.
I should have brought some
Bye-bye.
earplugs.
Goodbye.
I want to find out what life is really like behind the scenes at a legal brothel.